I don't even know if I'm legally allowed to say this. We got a loud ass plane, so we're gonna let that plane pass by. Okay, I want to talk about my ADHD diagnosis. It's actually super common that people in the Black and brown communities tend to not get diagnosed with any sort of mental health or neurodivergence disorder until much later in life, if ever. I forget the exact times, but it's much more likely we don't get diagnosed because of so many disparities and systemic issues and stereotypes and perceptions, all these things. Systemic racism, it's a problem. Maybe you've heard about it. It affects everything, including health, including mental health. So like many, I, being Black and Mexican, and not in the best school district, made it all the way through grade school, high school, middle school, high school, everything without getting a diagnosis. And what's crazy, I couldn't really read before college. Like, I knew the mechanics of reading, I could spell, I could do all that, but I didn't get an ADHD diagnosis until I was in college. Freshman year, after a few months in, 3 of my 5 professors independently ask or actually recommend that I go get checked for ADHD. I had such a limited knowledge of it at the time. Like, I remember being a little bit confused by it. It wasn't news that I heard and was like excited about. But 3 out of 5, that's a lot. And I figured that they may be onto something, especially because they approached me in a caring way, and I'm thankful for that. And they tried to get me to realize that it's not something I should be afraid of finding out about myself. Very fortunate I was going to school in a nice area. Fortunate I had access to healthcare, so I was able to go get checked at a nice facility. They did this eye tracking software. Essentially, I would read this test on a computer screen, like questions and multiple choice answers. So after the test, the doctor goes over the results because they show you what your eyes did while you're looking at the test. And what I saw was that essentially I read part of the first question and then stopped, and then read some answers to, I think, the second question, and then went back to read the answer to the first question, and then realized, wait a second, let me read the second question now that I read some of those answers. I think I didn't finish reading a full question until I looked at most of the test and half of the answers. I had no idea that I was doing any of this. I just thought I was a really slow test taker when it came to anything having to do with reading. So after I got the diagnosis, the doctor recommended medication, and I turned it down because I've never taken medication for anything. I don't take Tylenol, I don't really get sick, so I just avoid medication, some ego thing, or I have no idea why. It's just something that I avoided. And so they gave me alternative, like everything from meditations and breathing exercises to extra test time and all these things. They helped, but further conversations with my doctor, he eventually convinced me to try medication. And I'll never forget the first time that I took ADHD medication. Specifically, it was Adderall. I remember I didn't feel wired, just felt like a sense of clarity and focus that didn't have me on edge at all. So it wasn't all the things I'd heard. It wasn't anything that I thought it was gonna be. And I remember I took this assignment and I read a full page. Like I said, I'll never forget this. I went to my college roommates and was like, hey, I just read this whole page. And he looked at me, and I looked at him, and he looked at me, and was like, yeah, okay. And I was like, wait, what do you mean? No, I just read this whole page without stopping. Looks continue. He's like, yeah. And I was like, this is just how you read things? This is just normal? Like, you just read stuff? My mind was literally blown. Like, I have chills right now because I remember that sensation, that moment where I was like, oh my God. And it was just such a eye-opening experience of like, wow, like I've been experiencing things so much differently than so many of my peers, and I had no idea. I'm just super fortunate that my other gifts, possibly aspects of the ADHD and autism and a supportive family system and caring teachers along the way, helped me to figure out my way through school all that time. Excel in school even, I should say. I want to share that story for a couple of reasons. One is that I want to be someone who is promoting the same sort of attitude and perspective that my professors did, that allowed me to go seek help without feeling shame. I still probably did feel some, if I was being honest, but because they approached in this caring way, I didn't feel like they were telling me something was wrong with me or that I wasn't good enough. In fact, they were saying the opposite. They were saying, like, I can tell that with the way you're engaged in our conversations that you love learning and you love this material, but I noticed you're having trouble with XYZ thing, and I think this would help. And I've never really thought about how impactful that compassion was. So I'm very thankful to them and to all the teachers that have taken similar steps to have those, I'm sure, difficult conversations with parents or students. I want to say thank you and I appreciate you. And there's this clip going around that's kind of viral. My fellow autistic Brittany, my BB, Brittini, she recently shared this viral clip from the Proud family where I think it's a teacher or daycare worker is telling the parents about one of their children most likely being autistic, and you could see the defensiveness in Oscar, the dad. And I'm sure that sort of response can prevent a lot of teachers from speaking up when they see something. And I just want to send a thank you for the courage from my professors and all of the people who have helped say something in order to help someone else learn more about themselves. It helped me find new ways to approach different areas of life and to thrive even more. The second thing, second reason I'm sharing this is because the second thing I have to decide if I'm going to keep this in the video or not, because it feels like it could come off in a way that I don't want it to. But there is currently a national shortage for Adderall. I started last year, and I know a lot of people that self-admittedly, I'm not talking about people who are self-diagnosed. I know not everyone has the resources and privilege to be able to get a diagnosis through the proper channels. I'm not talking about you, but I have had friends and colleagues and people who very admittedly are like, hey, I take Adderall as like a performance-enhancing drug or party drug or whatever. Live your best life, but maybe just for now, consider not using Adderall while the shortage is going on, because it just has such a significant impact for so many people. It's not even just the focus. There's a lot of different symptoms that it helps with as far as how you even interact with your loved ones and other aspects of mental health besides focus that could impact things like depression or anxiety or just our personal relationships in so many ways. So that is, I don't know if I want to call it a plea. I definitely don't want to lecture, but it's just I wouldn't say public service announcement so much as a public service friendly request to be aware of this is going on and maybe do your part by holding off for a little while at least. I don't even know if I'm legally allowed to say this. I'm not encouraging it, so I think I'm allowed to say this. I'm not encouraging that continued use, but I'm also not in a position to tell anybody what to do. Thanks for watching.